Hey, welcome everybody to the Culture Works live stream series. My name is Chester Elton, and this is my dear friend, colleague for over 2 decades now, which makes us sound really old, doesn't it, Adrian?
I mean, almost 2.5 decades. Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah. So welcome. We're so grateful that you give us your time as we explore areas and really how to build these great cultures that are safe, that reduce anxiety, and places where we all want to live and grow and give our best efforts. As you know, we highlight the articles that Adrian writes in Forbes magazine. And you've got a really good one on how to engage a Gen Z, or as we say, we both grew up in Canada, Gen Z, which I think sounds cooler. Yeah. So why don't you,
like a zebra? I mean,
yes, that's exactly the way I said it. So anyway, kick us off, Adrian. You start with this generational difference, which I think is really interesting. And there's been a lot of talk about that. You know, we've got the Gen X, we've got millennials, we've baby boomers, we've got, 5 generations in the workplace. And so now we've got Gen Z. So talk a little bit about, answer that first question. How do we engage Gen Z in the workplace?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, I write about in this, and I think Natalie will put in the stream, the link to the article, is that, young people today, especially, have grown up with perfect information. These things, these cell phones we have at our fingertips can answer just about every question you have. Remember back when we had a little debate about something, we would have to go to the library. Remember those?
And, index cards. Whatever happened to all those index cards?
Dewey Decimal System. Yeah, look things up. I mean, it was a hassle. So they've had this thing of perfect information. Then they get to the workplace, and all of a sudden, people aren't telling them things, and things that should, be simple parts of their job, they're not being explained. And when people don't have perfect information, who've grown up in a world of perfect information, well, they just don't get started. And that's one of the big problems. If you want to motivate young workers, then make sure they have the information they need to get started.
Yeah, this idea of transparency. In the article, and I've heard you tell this story many times because we've worked together for almost 2.5 decades. This idea of when new people come in, the leader that said, here are 5 people in the organization I want you to meet.
Yeah.
Set up an appointment, not necessarily in their group. In fact, usually in other groups, somebody in finance or somebody in R&D or whatever, and then come back to me and tell me what you learned. This idea of not only know your job, understand the organization and how it works. Expound on that, because I think that's a brilliant best practice. I bet very few people do it. Yeah,
exactly. It's such a great best practice. Are we taking the time with this? This was a leader, president of a division of Danaher, a big manufacturing company, and she's a really bright leader. And she says inevitably what these younger people will say was, well, can't we just do this over text? Can't I just email them? And she goes, no, I need you to go meet them in person. I need you to call and set up an appointment. And she says, you have to explain how to do this, because in many cases, they haven't done this. So explain, call this person. I would like to meet with you for X amount of time for this purpose. And they'll be delighted to meet with you. And find a time that works. And so she says, I give them this instruction, but they come back and they're really quite blown away by how informative there is. And so, what she is doing is unlike a lot of leaders, where she's, as you said, bringing transparency into the workplace. And nobody thinks they lead by this need to share anymore, but so many leaders do. They're just so busy that they don't share what they know.
Yeah. So if you're not following Adrian on Forbes, you should. The article is wonder. It's how do we motivate Gen Z? You also talk about, and you touched on it briefly, about this idea of transparency. That old school was power. I know stuff you don't know, and that's why I'm the boss. We used to joke, remember? That's on a need to know basis, Adrian, and you're never going to need to know that.
Yeah, no, it's not important enough. Yeah,
exactly. Now you've got the point, and you bring it up in the article so brilliantly, is that now employees with Glassdoor and everything, they actually rate their bosses. You rate your Uber driver rates you. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. I got a bad little rating on an Uber thing. And by the way, I'm a great Uber passenger, just for clarity.
You've got to explain what happened, or people are all everybody's kind of going, whoa, wow.
Yeah. I didn't threaten him or anything. I gave him a cookie. I gave him a cookie, and when I gave it to him, I didn't have my mask on, and he said, "Yeah, my passenger wasn't wearing his mask." I thought, "I gave you
I
a
mean,
cookie."
I need a cookie. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
so it's really interesting. And then so I was on pins and needles for the next 5 Uber rides, being Uber friendly, and it was very interesting. So this idea of transparency and rating your bosses, this is different, not just for
yeah.
the boss, right? But for work in general. So
Oh
talk to me
yeah.
about that.
Well, and not just work too. It's, you think about how long would you be in a relationship with somebody who was secretive?
Yeah.
I use
Yeah.
the example of, James Bond. He's really hunky, but, would his significant other put up with his, secretiveness for long? No, of course not. We know this in our personal lives. We wouldn't put up with this. Well, why would we think we would put up with this in a workplace? And so, and the thing is, younger workers believe they have this inalienable right to participate. Their voices have been heard. Back when we were in school, you were supposed to be seen and not heard. It was rare when you raised your hand for a question. I still remember one brave young woman in my math class, and she would just raise her hand. She goes, "I don't get it." And the teacher would explain it again. She goes, "No, no, no, I still don't get it. And you have to explain it to me. I'm your client here, your customer." And she was just so brave, and I was so proud of her. And I wouldn't even dare that. Nowadays, everybody has grown up talking and participating, and yet they come into the workplace and we just shut that down. And it's not healthy, and it's certainly not creating engagement.
Yeah. And if you're looking for an engaging community, visit us at thecultureworks.ai. We're putting together a community where it's, safe to talk about these kinds of things and speak up and be very supportive. I loved your example about James Bond. Isn't it funny? Like in the old TV series, he works at a greeting card company. Really? Like a greeting card company? That was your best cover?
How old is that TV series? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't even know that.
So, that idea, and when it comes out, right, when the secrecy comes out, what does that do for your trust?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden there was
Yeah.
all this stuff that you knew and you never shared with me. It's like finding out that your
Yeah.
spouse has a second family in Uruguay or something. Um, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
The thing that I really like about the work that you and I do, Adrian, and you,
Yeah.
you put it in the chat box too, is how all this does really relate to your personal life as well.
Yeah.
Are you being honest and open and transparent with the people that mean the most to you? And if not, why?
Yeah.
Is that not a safe environment?
Yeah, and
You
is there
know,
somebody you don't feel comfortable, sharing with? Oh, that's a bit of a red flag, you
yeah.
know?
Talk a little bit more about the expectation, particularly in Gen Z, of a collaborative culture. Like you say, go off to these other departments, find out stuff, bring it back. There's also this idea that we're all, you mentioned a little bit, our voices are heard, but this idea, like I crowdsource, I've got my followers
Yeah.
TikTok and whatnot. There is an expectation of more collaboration, isn't there?
There really is. And it's interesting as we interviewed many young people for our book, Anxiety at Work. And what they told us was that, I can figure out the work stuff fairly quickly. It does get frustrating when you don't explain the simple things, but then I can figure out, I might even be able to Google what I need to be able to doing. I could crowdsource. As you say, I don't have time to wait for my boss to answer my questions. In many cases, they will crowdsource within their company or even outside to answer a question because I don't have 4 hours to wait anymore to hopefully my boss opens his or her door. That doesn't happen. But what they said that crowdsourcing can't do, what my colleagues can't do, what the only thing my boss can do for me that no one else can is help me navigate my career here because it's complex. That I can't get help with anywhere else. So they said that is something that I still need my boss for. That is where a boss really comes in very, very importantly to be transparent in my career, to let me know realistically what I can accomplish and help move me through.
Yeah. I love these live streams that we do because it's 15 minutes and it's impactful and it's, based on your articles. You wrap up with these questions. And I think these are really helpful that you've got sort of a roadmap, a way to say, how am I engaging my people?
Yeah.
Why don't we kind of go through
Yeah.
those? There were several, and it's not like you need to use all of them, but hopefully there are a couple that resonate with you that'll help
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean,
am I in tune, right?
Exactly. And you can ask them these if you're a manager or if you're wondering about your team. These are really great questions that we have asked before when we have gone in and consulted with organizations. So the first is, as a leader, do I openly and regularly share our team's strategy and challenges as they evolve with my employees, or do I find myself keeping information secret that doesn't need to be? And again, it's not like somebody is tinting their fingers. No, no, it's just that they're busy, they don't have time. You and I, we will go out and present at 60, 70, 80 conferences a year. And what we tell the leaders is, if you go back and you say nothing after this conference, your people are all wondering what's going on. There's something going on. They're about to lay off everybody,
Yeah.
right?
There's a merger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next question.
Do we have a clear way to share our team goals and performance levels for everyone to see? Are we transparent? Am I consistent in involving my team members in decision-making with challenges that affect their work? So I'll turn it back onto you. Why would that be important?
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, right? Like you can have one really smart person on your team and say, wow, that's our go-to. She's our go-to person. The thing is, the collective intelligence is always better, right? And I do really appreciate organizations where you come in. You and I do a lot of executive coaching. I had a coaching session right before this live stream, and she said, I'm really eager to get my team together and get that first hire so that we can start to say, okay, what kind of other people do we want to hire? I was talking to my son. He works at American Express. He says, we've got these job definitions. You know what we're really looking for? We're looking for really smart people, because we're going to have to teach them the job anyway. So as I look at your CV, do I see smart? And then, what, it was really interesting. He said, and you know what else we look for? Kind. We want kind people, because we're going to be working a lot with them. And the kindness, if you're not kind, will override the smart.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? We want to work with good people, good, smart people, right?
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, good people. So that collaboration and this ability to be able to be respectful and kind to each other to get to the answer, I think is more and more needed. Adrian, we've only got 2 minutes to go, so you got some good things up here.
Yeah. Here we go. I got to pick it up. Do my team members have a say in setting goals that affect their jobs? Do my team members have real avenues to raise ideas, questions, and concerns? And do I regularly express gratitude to my employees for their opinions and ideas, letting them know their voices are valued? So some really great questions.
Yeah. On and on. And I think the question, the fact that you're asking questions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting, Joe. I know we love, and it's not a party if Joe doesn't show up. Talks about, is there a generational, is there some conflict? Do young and old don't like to communicate or don't communicate enough? And I think, if there's one thing that you take away from our session today is there are generational differences. Mm-hmm. And asking these questions and bringing the group together can help break down those generational barriers. So I think that was a really insightful question.
Yeah.
Well, Adrian, we got 60 seconds to go. What would be the one thing that you want?
Yeah.
To take away from the article?
And I'll pick on what Joe just brought up too, is because, what younger people are doing is demanding either to be involved and to have more communication, but everybody wants this. Just the younger people are more demanding of it. If they don't get it, they'll leave or just check out. And so that's a problem. And we had actually a question too that says, hey, what about the high cost of inflation? And that actually is part of transparency. Companies that I'm working with now are starting to be more honest about compensation issues and about how we can work together, because we still have to keep the lights on. We still have to but what can we do? And so that's part of transparency, as well as being a little bit more open and honest about how we pay our people and how we can help our people. Let's be transparent about everything right now. And you're going to have more engagement because of it.
Absolutely. Again, his name is Adrian Gostick. He works for Forbes magazine. You should be following him and reading his articles, and join us at thecultureworks.ai. As always, if you're looking for solutions and strategies around reducing anxiety, our book, Anxiety at Work, is a great resource there. And follow us on LinkedIn. So between the CultureWorks AI, Adrian on Forbes, and LinkedIn, you've got lots of resources. Again, listen, thank you so much for giving us your time. We so appreciate it. We'll see you again. Look for the posts on it. And listen, have a great day. Be kind, be grateful, and be of service. and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.